Um, well, I want to welcome everybody to this event tonight. For those that don't know me, my name is Louis Crawford. I am the Director of MFA Graduate Studies for the Department of Art and Art History. And it's my pleasure tonight to introduce you to Etsuko Kato. I have known Etsuko for about 10 years, something like that. And I kind of claim her as my own student. In her biography, or her little bio, she actually says this. Etsuko was born in Japan and moved to Utah. What year was it?
2002-ish.
Okay, I couldn't remember. You didn't write it down. Anyway, so when she moved here, she was planning on actually eventually at one point getting an MBA. And she took a photography class with me at the Salt Lake Art Center, which is now UMOCA. And I remember she showed me, she walked into this class. It was a photography class for non-majors, and she showed me one of her prints. And I still remember the print to this day. It was this little tiny photograph of a bench. And I looked at her and went, why are you not an art major? It was one of the most beautiful photographs I'd seen in years. And so I don't know if she took my advice or not, but I knew it was in her. I knew when I met her, she was something special. About a year later, I ended up seeing her in the darkroom. And look at her now. So just a little bit about Etsuko. She has been a widely exhibited artist locally and internationally. She has shown in her home country of Japan as well as in the Czech Republic. In 2013, she had an artist in residency at the Kimball Art Center in Park City. And in 2018, she had an artist in residency in the Czech Republic, where she did some beautiful installation work there. She has shown in numerous juried exhibitions nationally and internationally, and won quite a few awards and been nominated for several things. Etsuko states her work explores identity and the roots and her roots using a variety of installations, printmaking, and historical processes. For the last few years, she has been re-exploring and questioning her Japanese identity by examining her grandfather's memories as a kamikaze pilot instructor during World War II. She also utilizes found photography and found photographs of Japanese citizens and images from Japan during the war. She also utilizes calligraphy, printmaking, traditional paper arts, Japanese folding art, origami, and her current work, she says, is trying to understand her identity, at the same time trying to understand the relationship between identity and memory. It's my pleasure to introduce and turn the time over to Etsuko Kato.
Thank you. Okay, so I will do share. Is that sharing? Is all right? Okay. And then you can hear my voice. Is all right? Okay. Okay. How was your day today? Before COVID-19 started going around. We got up in the morning, ate breakfast at home. Then went to school or work most mornings. At night, friends gathered, chatted, and laughed during the dinner with each other. On the weekend, we went to the countryside to relax with friends and family. Go on a trip for a few days or travel to another country for a summer vacation. Everyone had these kind of ordinary days until this year. The daily life thought to be ordinary until now has been taken away from us by the virus. COVID-19 has taught us what we thought to be ordinary was in fact not. This is what we were all experiencing this right now. Because of the pandemic experience, I have come to understand that peace is not a normal or ordinary lifestyle. I feel my mysterious fate. 2020 marks the 75th anniversary of end of the World War II for my country. Briefly stated, 75 years ago, nuclear bombs were dropped twice on Japan. When the bombs were dropped, it was said nothing would grow in Hiroshima and Nagasaki for 75 years. On the contrary, these two cities have recovered, but the people, however, are still recovering. This year is an important turning point for us. This year also marks the 9th anniversary of the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami disaster. However, Japanese nuclear power plants still remain, along with many other unresolved issues. Because of the 75th commemoration of the war and COVID-19, I can't help but to think about life and death. First, I would like to talk about my title. Keisho is the Japanese phonetic alphabet, has many meanings. I have chosen 3 of those meanings represented in kanji, which is Chinese characters. The first keisho means inheritance. Inheriting something from a previous generation. The second keisho means shape. To give shape to concepts that form in the mind or things that are captured by feelings or sensations. The third keisho means warning. To notify and give warning or danger. To make my art, I'm using people's memories, their thoughts and feelings, which are included in those memories, as well as perspective of nature and their outlook of life and death, which are at the roots of the Japanese people. There are many things to learn from our roots. Our perspective of nature taught by our ancestors, and from history. The things from which we have learned will cause us to become aware of many more things. I take this and give it shape it in form of art, so it will raise questions inside the viewer when they see it. When I look back, I realize I was doing keisho unconsciously with most of my old work. The power of art is to raise questions and to trigger something deep inside the viewer. The viewer can feel something from my art and through my art communicate with me. So I have often thought about what the power of art is. I feel my own helplessness. I am powerless, but there must be something I can do. Of course, I can take action. What can I do for Japan? They can't. They aren't accept volunteers from outside the country right now. I cannot do anything to help them directly, but maybe there is something I can do indirectly. What is it? Art is powerless. Art can't feed hungry people. It can find missing bodies or fix houses that have been destroyed by tsunami and earthquake. Art can't change anything physically in the present. This is from my journal when I visited the Tohoku disaster area in 2012. The situation of the disaster area was more serious than what TV or the internet had led me to believe. It had been a year since the disaster happened when I visited. There were districts that had yet to be cleaned up. I was speechless. I joined a volunteer group whose goals were to save photographs and paper objects found from the tsunami disaster. I looked for something to help the Tohoku area with art and joined in making anti-nuclear power posters. As time goes by, finally, I understand more and more, little by little. It is true that art cannot provide physical medical treatment, nor can it repair buildings. Its role and existential meanings are essentially useless. Since the earthquake, I have started to notice that art is skillful at appearing enlightenment of ideals. One, art is always a face-to-face media. It is a conversation between the creator and the viewer. It is different than journalism. Art appreciation is a one-on-one familiarity, especially with installations where you can physically go inside and experience it. Art galleries and art museums are more of forced kind of one-on-one appreciation. Two, art has a unique ambiguity. In order for the viewer to understand art, the viewer needs to actively face it. This active appreciation, for better or worse, gives the viewer an unforgettable experience. The appreciation of art also has the possibility of changing the viewer's way of thinking. Art has various powers. However, because of the power of art, I am fascinated with and have been focusing on these two things. And I feel that the power of art is stronger than language because art is an international language. It needs no translation. During my first year of grad school, I made a big installation. The title was My Grandfather's Wishes. My grandfather's wishes was born from my grandfather's belongings of tiny origami cranes. My grandfather was an airplane instructor that taught young men how to fly airplanes. He continued to let countless young men's lives fly into the sky. After the war, he was very quiet and looked like he was begging forgiveness for the lives that he sent away as he made the tiny paper cranes. I tried to understand what he thought and how he lived after the war. As I was making this piece, I thought something wasn't quite right. Something needed to be different, but I didn't know what it was. After I finish it, I need to think on it for a little while. And 1 year later, I had another chance. I tried to challenge the same theme, but in the different settings. I researched war pilots and their families' testimonies, documents, and records. I also rethought the formation for my origami cranes and airplanes. I dyed paper with Japanese indigo that I brought back from Japan. I wrote calligraphy about the piece on the dye paper and hold it into origami crane. My grandfather's heritage is a good example of how I returned to an idea and reconstructed the piece a few years later after I had finished it. I think this is a habit I had learned from doing black and white photography. Using old negatives to develop new photos. From the same negative, I can create totally different photos now than I did a few years ago. Therefore, I can meet a different me. Why myself? Because I think my art reflects myself at the moment. Even though I show a piece of art now, in a few years, it might change into a completely different piece. I had only negative thoughts and everything every day during the first year of my MFA. During this time, my self-portrait series was made. I was holding on to so much negativity inside of myself every day. One night, I tried to make a time to clear my mind. Something like a meditation. What result was this series? Almost every night, I made a different self-portrait. I turned off my studio lights. I put one sheet of large paper on the table. Then I drew a huge circle with a photosensitive chemical over and over. As I was drawing the circle, I tried to control my breathing at the same time and focus on my thoughts. After that, I took a deep breath. breathe, then breathe out all the negativities from inside of me. I repeated this a few more times. When I was done, I grabbed my backpack and went home. The paper with the weird pattern was dry on the studio table the next morning. I quickly put away in my locker. I repeated this same process for humans. For the first few weeks, I couldn't look at the papers, so I just hid them in my locker. A few months later, my locker was full of them. Then I took a look for the first time. A few months of meditation works, I guess. Those weird patterns were no longer just negative. Weird patterns, they had become positive ones. I thought that if the negative doesn't exist, the positive also doesn't exist. I started to see those papers as my own mirror. And then I made superimposed self-interest over altruism. This series is a part of my Tohoku Tsunami series, and my blue dot self-portrait overlap each other. Nature gives countless blessings, but humans have forgotten so many things while developing science for such a long time. I think humans borrow the land from nature and live with animals, plants, and other creatures, but we often forget about them. The Tohoku disaster and this series made me remember and rethink about our lives right now. This series is trying to throw out questions to the viewer, such as, do you think that nature is warning us? My blue dot self-portrait may appear as human spit or even Godzilla to different people in this series. I can see in my work that I have Japanese roots deep inside of me, from which I have inherited my perspective of nature. I became ill and took a leave of absence from school. I spent more time with my family in Japan through the internet and used my time to research my roots. 2019 was the year of preparation for the 75th anniversary of the end of the war. Rather than thinking about war, I began to face death and life little by little. August is filled with important days in Japan, starting with August 6th, Hiroshima Day, August 9th, Nagasaki Day, and August 15th, the anniversary of end of the war. Around the same time, we celebrate the Bon Festival. This is kind of like Japan's version of the Day of the Dead. We hold services for our ancestors and people that have passed on. After that, we finish the month by enjoying various summer festivals. I think August is a month of war for the Japanese. TV and the newspapers have special issues and programs about how people survived the war, or what really happened in the war, or a few living survivors tell their accounts and experiences. Living survivors become fewer by the year. This is my memory of August in Japan. The memory of August in Japan, along with the 75th year of the end of the war, was an opportunity to start thinking about living and dying. The leftovers of war was born from listening to many accounts of war survivors who lived through and after the war, including my grandmother, her friends, and people about the same age. Many lives were lost everywhere in the world during the World War II. My grandfathers joined the war as soldiers. They lost their parents, brothers, and many friends in the war. Even after the war was over, leftover people continue to fight to live. My grandfather never talked about the war with me. Neither did my grandmother until recently. Most people my grandmother's age don't want to talk about it either. But some people talk to me because they never want to have war again. Survivors who lost good soldier friends on the battlefield. Elementary school students who lost classmates because of air raids. Nurses who saw many soldiers' deaths. The husband who came back from the battlefield only to be informed of his family's death by an air raid. After the war ended, survivors have told me there were many suicides. Right now, the world is fighting against a common enemy, COVID-19. I pray heartily that we can stop fighting each other and that the world can cooperate with each other. I was talking about fleeting memories. I, who have never known war, knew war through my grandparents. When I was a child, I heard the same stories over and over. The memory of a family member who died in the war. The memory of a family member that is untold. The memory of my father's untold Navy story. The empty space can show or hide another layer's memories. The photo layer that moves as viewers pass by are grandparents' memories. The shadows that are cast by those memories are my grandparents' feelings. History aims to repeat itself. It's true. Is that why people tend to repeat war? Is peace what happened in between wars? Or is it forgetting? Why do people repeat war? I ask these questions. I do not demand total peace. I just want to cherish family loved one, and the emotions we share. I mean, I just want to make my family, my friends, and my community always smile. The next piece, the memories, is a very personal piece. I wanted to know why my grandfather was silent about the war. I thought the only way to know would be to walk in his shoes. I thought that I needed to experience shooting someone like in war. I wanted to know how my grandfather felt to send young people to the sky, even if he knew they were on a suicide mission and they would never come back alive. I thought I might understand how he felt a little bit. After this project, what I understood was war is just murder, no matter the reason. Even now, I sometimes have nightmares. When I think about this project, my hands still shake. I feel that through this project, I have begun to inherit my grandfather's memories and his feelings. This series is in book form and it has black fabric covers. But in this show, I only display the pages framed because of the current COVID-19 situation. My grandfather lost his Navy album. I thought that his Navy memories were negative memories, but I wanted to inherit them as his living proof and his silent record. These memories were negative memories for my grandfather, but depending how I use them, I think I can change them into positive one. Therefore, I want to leave his memory as an album. Fragment of memories, abundant memories, is also in book form and has fabric covers. The people in these photographs are unknown. No one knows who the original owners are. They left the mother country and were sold to unknown person. I got these photographs from auctions and antique shops in the United States. Most of them were brought from Japan by US soldiers or were confiscated by US soldiers from Japanese soldiers on the battlefield. If the war didn't happen, these old photographs would still be in the original owner's house in Japan. After bouncing around from one place to the next, they came to me. These photographs show a past existence. At the same time, they show absence. These people are not here anymore. As I made this album during the pandemic, I imagined that my grandparents' album that was being burned in the war must have looked very similar. I began to think that my life under the pandemic and my grandmother's life under the war had overlapped. I think the history is a result of individuals and nations' thoughts, choices, and actions. I felt while I was making these projects, depending on the situation and where you were at any given time, you could either be a silent or a victim. That is war. Facing war survivors' testimonies and thinking about why the war happened are very important things if we wish to never have war again. I think war cannot be explained by the simple framework of assailant and victims. Between assailant and victims, there are many bystanders. Yeah. I think what is important is how the majority of the bystanders behave. If we can learn from history, if there are more and more people taking action, I think that war would never happen again. This is our obligation that has been entrusted to us with the memories from our grandparents' generation. I truly wish that this show will remind in each and every one of us and cause us to think of what war truly is. This show's main theme is war, because this year is the 75th anniversary of the end of the war. I have started to collect data, documents, and ideas for my next series that will address Japan's unsolved nuclear issues and natural disasters. I do Keisha and will make art with these things. I might reconstruct one of these war series too, while my grandmother is still alive. Finally, I will show our bodies are a living collective of the memories of the past. I wasn't originally going to include this in the gallery, but I changed my mind while hanging my other works on the gallery wall. I think that is connected to the show's theme very well. This project started off as a curiosity, but now I am beginning to understand why I needed to make it. You can see I have the nose of my mother and my grandmother. My mother has the ear of my grandmother. I have the small ears of my great grandmother. We know things that can never be learned, things that were passed down to us by our ancestors. I believe that memories of our ancestors live on in our souls. That is all. Thank you.
All right, we do have time for some questions. So if you would please use the raise hand feature, or you can send a chat question. or you can just wave at us with your hand. See that way. All right, Jacqueline.
I'll go first. Well, first, Etsuko, I want to say thank you. I think the tenderness and compassion that you give to these images that you found is really incredible, and really sort of shows us the intimacy with which you've made this work. And so it was really great to hear you sort of speak to that. And also just the way that you talk more generally about war as something that is not black and white, but as something that is incredibly complex and very nuanced. And your work, of course, in the exhibition does that really well. So I thought that was really another thing that was really wonderful to hear from you. One thing I was wondering if you could maybe speak to a little bit more, you touched on it, was the way in which like your body becomes this very sort of like physical part of the work. It's very much in the work, either through your breath or your hands. And of course, your hands are performing many gestures within the work, either removing bodies from images, which of course could be done digitally and you chose not to, as well as the dropping of the ink, which you did speak to on the images. And of course, bookmaking is a significant part of your practice as well. And all of those things have this really real physicality and engagement with the way that you are physically, responding to them. And I was wondering if you could maybe touch on that a little bit more and give us some more insight into that.
Yeah, first I wanted, I tried digitally to cut it out first, but I'm not a digital person. I'm very anti-digital. But also, first I tried, and then like what was it, leftovers, I tried to cut it out, remove it. First picture I tried, something wrong with it, because especially World War II was not like missiles or those weapons are not like nowadays weapons. So we try to stab or pistols, and those ones is more physically we killed people. That's why I wanted to try it to buy physically to cut it out, because that's more close to their experience too. That's why I wanted to do that too. And also at the same time, that's nowadays very easy to delete people. Like now we are Zoom. I don't like you, I turn off you or something like that. But it's not like that our relationships or life. So I thought it's, if the viewer can see my imperfect lines or cutting lines or something, they can see more, how do I say in English, more imperfect lines, more humanities, kind of feel it or see it. So can see more, some people don't care maybe, but some people can see it and started to think why, or why she chose that. And then maybe some people started to think about it, why. So those ones that I thought it's more important. That's why I pick it, that I choose those techniques, everything. That's why I did it, cut it, and also semi ink, I did it. But also for me too, maybe most important is not for the viewer, maybe for me to experience, to take out the person, how I feel. That's why if somebody see the show, the black box, take out the people, I couldn't throw them away because I felt something. I can not throw them away in the garbage bag or box or whatever. So that's why I kept it in the box. So kind of the gesture, maybe some viewer can understand. So I wanted to keep what I felt, and some viewer can feel that same way. That's I wanted to keep and then important. But yeah, I don't know. Is that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Okay.
I'll go. Hi, Etsuko.
Hi.
Very lovely presentation. Thank you. I got to visit your show today in the gallery, and I thought it was quite beautiful and very moving. And your sensitivity, like Jacqueline pointed out, is really quite extraordinary in the way you present such a difficult subject matter, but allow us to come in a way that's almost soft in some ways. I think the message is hard. I think you're very direct, but at the same time, there's a sensitivity that most would not be able to do. So I commend you on that. It's really, really well done. I'm wondering, before COVID, have you had any opportunity to show this work in Japan? And if not, are you thinking of that? And what, if you have, what were some of the reactions?
I'm thinking about it because the COVID, so I don't know how they say, like it's likely, I don't know. So everything is pushed back next year. So a lot about the war, the 75th anniversary things, is everything pushed back. So that's why I want to try to get in and I want to show. And then because my pictures come from Japan, I want to go back and then those pictures can go back. That's maybe better. And then maybe some people can find the owners, the original owners, maybe can find their origin, families too, would be great. Or I want to more research my family too. So I'm thinking about it too. And I will look for the shows too. But also in the world, still we are fighting or try to start a war, or still everywhere they're fighting. So also my country or everywhere, people don't remember or don't know or not experience about the war. So everybody must know about what is the war is. So I want to show not only my country, but another country too. That's I'm thinking about it. And then couple Japanese old ladies I showed them. And then they want to try to talk to me more. So if I can do, I want to make a more audit their experience and then testimonies. Also, I want to show their offsprings too. So that's I want to do. I want to keep doing this little by little, not mainly because it's not my main things. So that's what I'm thinking. Yes.
Great. Well done.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any more questions for Etsuko? If not, let's give her another round of applause virtually. And thank you again. And if you haven't yet, please go see her exhibition. You have through Friday of this week. The gallery is open from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then after the school's 2-week break, it'll be open that following week as well from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday. So thank you, Etsuko. Thank you everybody for making it out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.